going. Hey.
Okay. So welcome, those who, all of you, of course, are all online. So welcome back again to this class called 8 Verses to Turn Your Mind Around, taking the 8 Verses to Turn Your Life Around, taking the essence. Let's begin by doing a short meditation. We'll set our motivation and say a few prayers together, and then we'll begin the class. So get comfortable in your seat. Try to make sure that your back is straight and your shoulders are relaxed. And you can keep your eyes open or close them. And when you feel ready, acknowledge the fact that you are breathing, and you can feel that process. The inhalation and exhalation of breath and the movements that are taking place within your body. So you're breathing normally and naturally, and you're aware of that. And so your mind is focused and your body is relaxing. So on the next exhalation of breath, think that your body is completely relaxed. So the body is relaxed, the mind is focused. With the mind focused, it's very easy to imagine the presence of all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and that you're surrounded by all sentient beings. And you recollect that you want to put an end to your own suffering and the suffering of all the sentient beings surrounding you. And you intend to do that by taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The teacher of refuge, the teachings that provide refuge, and a community that support our refuge. And so you say, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. In response to this aspiration of ours, think that lights and nectars pour out of the heart of the Buddha. They wash over you and over all the beings surrounding you. And whatever hindrances or obstacles there might be to having devotion to the Buddha, his teachings of the community, these hindrances and obstacles are now washed away. And your body, speech, and mind are completely receptive to the teachings. And in this receptivity arise the 4 boundless thoughts. So you now say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends and the hatred for enemies. Again, in response to this wish, lights and nectars pour out of the heart of the Buddha. They wash over you and over all the beings surrounding you. You find that these four thoughts naturally pervade the mind. You recollect the field of merit above you. You're having devotion to the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas and so forth. You say, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. Now, as a means to stop our clinging to our sense of self and to the merit and towards our goals, we recollect emptiness. We see that our body is empty of any inherent existence. And acknowledging that, we transform it into a wonderful pure land that we offer to the Buddha. Then we say, this ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Dayatayami. And we release the offering, and it's been accepted by the Buddha with delight. And he smiles at us, and we look up into his eyes, and we feel accepted and at ease. And from this sense of ease and spaciousness, we see an emanation of the Buddha leave his heart, move through space, and come to abide above the crown of our own head. It's facing in the same direction we are. It now begins to descend, entering the crown of your head and coming down through your body until it rests at the level of your heart. And resting there, its radiance begins to expand, filling your body and mind with light. And the light goes out through the pores of your skin and begins to fill the 10 directions of space. And wherever there are beings within space, think that they are pervaded by this light and utterly transformed into a fully awakened state. So we've accomplished our own welfare and the welfare of others. We just rest in this acknowledgement. And then, from the 10 directions of space, the light begins to recede. It comes back and re-enters your heart. You can feel yourself sitting on your seat, and you know that you're breathing normally and naturally. You know that this meditation has been one of imagination, and it has imprinted the mind with a cause to produce enlightenment for yourself so that you can effortlessly and spontaneously help others do the same. Which I think this is good. This is a good thing I've done. Acknowledging that goodness, you begin to breathe in deeply through your nostrils and exhale through your mouth, and in your own time allow your eyes to flutter open and move yourself in whichever way you like to, so you feel quite at ease once again, and you know you're in front of the screen and we're going to engage in the teaching. Okay, let's have a look where we are. So this is the material I've been relying upon to present these classes. What can I say here? They're all good. They're all useful, and you can always find something that you can take that's valuable from them. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. And today's topic, so we're going to do this review. So that's the review of the last 6 verses we've done, and it won't take very long. Then we're going to have a look at verses 7 and 8, which are concerned with courage and the practice of tonglen, or giving and taking, and pure practice, how to integrate our understanding of dependent origination and emptiness to these 7 previous verses. So let's have a look at verses 1 and 2 first of all. So these, in brief, are related to the practice of cherishing others, and also to this practice of equalizing oneself with others. So we begin with equalizing oneself and others, and we move up into cherishing self as other. It's a way to generate humility when we see ourselves as being the same as everybody else, and to counteract pride and any other type of faulty attitude that we might have, things like indifference for others. So in brief, we want to develop appreciation and affection for others and have a sense of humility, and to overcome our sense of indifference towards others, which are related to our arrogance and pride. And this is basically how we develop this practice of equality. So it says, as you can see, by becoming accustomed to the equality of self and other, the spirit of enlightenment becomes firm. Self and others are interdependent. Like this side and the other side of a river, they are false. The other bank is not in itself other. In relation to someone else, it is this bank. Similarly, the self does not exist in its own right. In relation to someone else, it is other. So we can get our heads around this. This really helps. This is the wisdom aspect of equalizing self with others. And I wanted to put this verse in here. This is like the complete summary of all the practices to bring about this ability to equalize yourself with others. As you can see here, they've used the example of a riverbank, but you could also use it in terms of a mountain going, when I'm on this mountain, it seems that over there is that mountain, but when I'm on that mountain, it seems I'm on this mountain. and what I used to call this is now that. So you find this is the same with yourself, right? You say, well, I am I, and you are you. But from the point of view of the other, the you, they are I, and you are the other. So that way we can see this equality between self and others, right? It just exists dependently. We don't exist independent of each other as these firm identities as being I and you. And when we can see that, when we can come to terms with that, we can see that my happiness is just as important as your happiness. My suffering is just as important as your suffering. As I wish to put an end to my suffering and generate happiness for me, actually I need to do the same for you, because you're no different than I. Then we came to the verses 3 and 4, and later on 5 and 6, of course, and these are really related to the practice of exchanging self with others. So in brief, what we need to do is to cultivate mindfulness and vigilance to bring us about a sense of renunciation. And the renunciation here is the one where we are primarily concerned with oneself. Now we're going to go, oh, no, I'm going to put that down and be primarily concerned about you. Really because there are more yous than there are of me. Right? Now to do that, we've got to sort of recollect the suffering of others and have a wish to stop it. So here we've got the two, renunciation and now compassion. Of course, to stop that, we want to stop agreeing with our afflictive mind states, the mind state that pushes ourselves forward and center, and then to not resent sentient beings who wish to be happy and push themselves first. Again, this is related to exchanging self with others. And here you can see what we need to do is to cultivate a sort of unbiased and courageous love towards others. And in terms of teaching 6, see that all these difficulties that can arise when we try to do that can be teachers for us. We can use them as valuable steps on our way. Of course, again, this requires us to stop being resentful of others' harms that they do to us, to not be impatient or despondent because others suffer and make attempts to hurt us. I'll sum this up with this verse that comes from the Guru Puja. It says that cherishing myself is the doorway to all downfalls, while cherishing my mothers is the foundation of everything good. Inspire me to make the core of my practice the yoga of exchanging myself for others. Again, this will call upon some reflection on our part to think of, what for most of our lives, it's always been about me. I am my major concern. And then you ask yourself, well, how's that gone? How's that gone for you? And you realize pretty quickly, well, I'm still suffering. I haven't achieved the types of happiness I wanted for myself. And here this verse is saying, well, that's because you've been I-focused, me-focused. If you turn your attention around and put it on others, these goals that you have for yourself will be met. So this is in brief the summary of the previous 6 verses. So now we are coming up to the last verses of verse 7 and verse 8. So in brief, verse 7 is a summary of all the verses that came before it in terms of the method side of practice. In terms of conventional truth and method, we've now come to the summary, the Tonglen practice. And once we sort of understand this, we can see that everything that came before it, we could practice Tonglen. Now, any type of suffering that we met that were expressed towards us by others, we could accept that and use it in our practice, use it as a teaching device and engage with Tonglen. Any type of suffering we had, we could use that as a basis, place others' suffering upon it, and do Tonglen practice. So like I said, verse 7 is like a summary of all the method aspects that have come before it. And here, because we're doing Tonglen, really the essence of it is courage. Courage to be compassionate, courage to have a love and concern for others. Now, to be courageous means we have to face our fears. So I've got to stop being fearful, stop expressing the states that are rooted in fear. And we can do that through the wisdom aspect. So verse 8 is the ultimate aspect of all these teachings. So now we're using the wisdom realizing selflessness, the wisdom realizing emptiness. It's like the merging of the two. Everything up to verse 7 is conventional truth, and now we've got verse 8 is ultimate truth. And now we're putting them together. So that all conventions appear to us to be illusory in nature, because they don't have the true existence they seem to have. Now, to stop us grasping at this true existence, we have to remind ourselves that all appearances don't have the truths they seem to have. In fact, they're empty of this true existence they seem to have. And the way to, like I said, the way to relate this in terms of when we're not in practice, when we're not sitting down on the cushion, when we're out in the world, is to see everything to have an illusory nature. So, for instance, a quick example of this is like I'm looking at you on my screen off to the side here, and Miffy's waving her hand about.
Yep. Eddie, don't forget to stop the share when you.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So like I'm looking at you and you're looking at me. Would you all agree with that? Yeah. So where do I appear to be? I'm over here, and you guys
Over
appear to be
there.
like over there. But if you really ask, sort of analyze and go, well, am I looking at you? Are you seeing me? You'd have to say no. All we're really looking at is pixels on a screen. Well, and yet each one of us is thinking, like I'm talking to Barbara, I'm talking to Erin and Miffy. Yeah, I see, Lou. And conventionally we do, but you're not there. All I'm really engaging with here is appearance.
And this is even more embarrassing in a way, Eddie, because it's clear that you're not there in my computer screen, and yet I forget that it's an illusory appearance.
Yeah, that's right. All the illusory appearances don't appear to be illusory. They appear to be real, right? So the reality that seems so real is in fact illusory. It has an illusion of being real. And if we can remember this, when we're out and about in the world, but just asking yourself, does the person really appear to be over there? And if you think, well, of course they do. So, well, if they were really over there, was the real person over there, I should be able to go over there and like touch a real person. You think, yeah, that's right. And so, well, when you do and you go and touch them, what do you touch? You're going to touch some aspect of the body, isn't it? Something physical. And then you can ask yourself, is that the person? You have to go, oh, no, of course not. That's the skin of the person or the arm of the person. It's some part of the person. It's not the person. The arm of the person or the skin of the person is not the person. So again, we have this illusory appearances. Of course, this without the examination, we say the person's there, and I'm going to touch the person, and I'm touching you, and you're touching me, and that's right. That's how it is. But to think it's more than that, that's what our ignorance is doing. It's saying that it's more than that. It's real. There's a real person over there. So that discovering this illusory nature requires analysis. It won't just appear to your senses. But like I'm saying, like from right now, isn't it? It's like, it's illusory, isn't it? That you're there and I'm here, right? Because all we are is just mere appearances on the screen, aren't we? And how's that appearances coming about through all the pixels on the screen and the electricity? All sorts of different dependencies are coming together till we appear in front of one another, talking to one another. And without those dependencies, these appearances don't exist. So this is what verses 8 is all about. I'm already on verse 8. We haven't got to verse 7. So let's go to verse 7, and we'll come back to this again. Yeah, so again, from verse 7 backwards, it's like all the method side of practices, all coming together in the practice of Tonglen. Verse 8, the ultimate truth of things, ultimate bodhicitta, ultimate mind of enlightenment, and how this ultimate truth is conjoined with the conventional. It's not separate from it. So, let's have a look. The Geshe Langri Tangpa says, in brief, I will train myself to offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly, and secretly take upon myself all the hurts and pains of my mothers. So I'm going to break this down now, this verse. So in brief means in conclusion. Like I said, in conclusion from the past 6 verses of the method, I will train myself. So I will train myself refers to the acknowledgement that we need to accept is that we need to rely upon a teacher, a spiritual mentor. And we want to do this so that we can actually help others, because we don't know. We might have the aspiration and wish to help others, but how? How do we do it? And here what we see is that we rely upon a teacher who teaches us the method of Tonglen. Thereby we can have more courage, more compassion, and more wisdom, more love. And where it says here both directly and indirectly, we say these are referring to what we can do in the session and outside of the session. And when we're in the session, it will rely upon your ability to concentrate. Because when you do Tonglen practice, you're concentrated. The mind is concentrated. So you see here, this verse is associated with the perfection of concentration. So indirectly, throughout this imagination, the imaginative process of giving and taking, and directly is when we actually help people and others as much as we can, animals, people, whoever's suffering in some way. We can offer the cats food. We can offer somebody who's suffering a cup of tea, a smile. So that's the direct way. Indirectly, when we're sitting on the cushion doing the imaginative process, and secretly means it's quite difficult to do. Here it's done on the breath, so nobody knows we're doing it. The other meaningful secret is this is quite an advanced practice. So in the beginning, it was just talked to a very few practitioners, those who had enough wisdom and courage that the teacher could see, okay, this is a wise person, they're courageous, I'll introduce them to this practice. So not everybody got this practice historically speaking. But now, of course, it's out in the world and we can all practice it. Okay, so let's have a look at this practice called Tonglen. The Tonglen means like taking. And I'll put the slide up first. So taking. So how to meditate, how to become familiar with the taking process. We can begin with ourselves. And they often say, begin by taking the future sufferings upon your sense of indifference to your present self. Now, like for most of us, right, I can see by just looking at all of us, we're all called middle-aged or older, aren't we? All of us, right? And so our future is not going to get better. All we're going off towards, our trajectory is towards our own death, isn't it? And often before you die, you get sick. And before that happens, we just have the sufferings of old age. That's our future. So the taking is like taking this into consciousness, facing it. And then going, okay, so that takes a little bit of courage, doesn't it? Because most of us just ignore it. We don't think about that. So we're going to look at it like now. And think that, okay, how can I develop compassion and love and concern for myself, my future self? So this is what it's sort of getting at. And by even looking at it, that's courageous, that's courage. Then in terms of what we're actually going to do when we do the Tonglen practice, that requires even more courage. So like I said, the suffering effects of old age, sickness, death itself. Then of course, we have causes for our suffering. So we could look at those two and think, yep, I can accept that is the case. And I can work with myself kindly, compassionately, wisely. There are also imprints of the suffering and also imprints of our goodness that are on our mind stream. So we begin with ourselves, unless of course you're quite developed and you can move over very easily and start on others. But if that's not the case, you start with yourself. This was the instruction given in 7-point mind training. It says, first, begin with oneself. And often the future, but you can also look at the past and the present. This technique works the whole lot. This works, it doesn't matter whether it's past, present, or future. You can have compassion and kindness for yourself for what happened in the past, how you're behaving in the present, and towards your future. It's just in the text, it's always the major thing is the future. But I've found using this, you can heal a lot of your past traumas, past ways of behaving. So that's where we should begin. And then when we come to others, so we can start off with our friends. It's easier to work with the sufferings of our friends because we like our friends naturally. In strangers, well, we might not like them so much, but at least we don't dislike them. And you've got to remember too that this is all has the basis of our training in equanimity. The enemies, and finally everyone. So everyone is anybody on a spiritual path, everyone up to Buddhahood, because the Buddhas don't need, they don't have any suffering to be concerned about. So we don't need to be thinking about that. But everybody else is some form of suffering, whether it be an obscuration, a seed, or the actual effect. Then of course we've got the animals. So what I've got is etc. Here means all beings of any sentient being, basically. And again, when we engage in this type of practice, you've got to acknowledge your own capabilities, because when you read the different texts, they give different visualizations you can do. So some of them you'll find, oh, yeah, I can do that one, and you find, yep, that's easy enough to do. And then I'd say, well, you can step it up a little bit, step it up a little bit, step it up a little bit. And then the sufferings, the visualizations of the sufferings become worse and worse, right? More ugly, more challenging. But again, remember what we're trying to do here is challenge our own fear, to be courageous in the face of fears. Because all of this, remember, is just on the level of imagination. Now, I know our own imagination can terrify us, but actually reality should be worse than our imagination, shouldn't it? Not for most of us, no, imagination's worse than reality. But we can really work quite easily with imagination, right? As long as we remember what we're doing here and what the purpose of it is. So I'm going to now say something about this too. We're going to do a meditation shortly, but I should say something. When we're about to engage in this type of meditation, if we've never done it before or we are beginners at it, you don't go straight into doing the imagination process. You just sort of sit there and contemplate, reflect. You know, like I can see Barb's head's like this. I can see she's thinking. So just like that, you sit there and go, yeah, I'm here right now, and my future is a death, and before that'll be my old age. In fact, I'm aging right now, and occasionally I get sick and those sort of things. And when that happens, it is uncomfortable. Is all this true? And you say to yourself, yeah, of course it is. And all of that sort of discomfort has causes. And of course it does. And it leaves imprints or habitual ways of thinking upon my mind. Yep, that's all true. You say, well, can I imagine not experiencing that? And you go, yeah, of course I can, because you can imagine anything. You say, well, could I also imagine, not experience, but could also imagine like experiencing it? You go, well, yeah, I'm actually sort of doing it right now. Through the contemplation of it, I'm actually imagining it. Right? So, yeah, of course I can do it. You think, okay, so could I imagine if all of that suffering could take a form of some sort, any type of form, and I could place it all upon my my unconcern for my future, my indifference towards myself. I can imagine, like if I had my indifference here in one hand and all my future sufferings in another and put them together, right? And they wiped each other out. You know, I mean, I'm just saying this. You can all imagine it, couldn't you? So, like I said, it's possible to imagine anything. So you've got two things that we call sufferings. And what we do is that we're just going to put them together and think when I do, it's like two negatives coming together. Well, they can't abide together. They explode, like they vanish. So can I imagine that? Just as I'm talking to you, and I'm sure you all can because you can all hear me and you can see my hands moving about and go, wow, imagine if I got two negative things together, put them together like that, and just like it went like that, it all vanished. So, yep, I can do that. I'm just doing it right now. I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, okay. Now let's try it out and make it a bit more like real on the sense of imagination. Could I do it like my heart is a black light of indifference, obscuring my wisdom? And here's my suffering that looks like another black light. The two black lights come together. I breathe it in. And when the two black lights come together, again, they explode. And what's there? Just a lovely clarity, clearness. Yep, I can do that. So, okay, well, how about if you went, make it like a black sort of foamy thing? And then at my heart was the rock of indifference. And the foam of all my sufferings met the rock of my indifference. And again, two negatives come together, went crash, and they just exploded. And I was clear. So that's how you sort of do it. And you can build it up because you can. One of the ways I've read of it going, could you imagine all your sufferings taking on the form of insects? Right? The insects that you don't like, the cockroaches, anything that freaks you out, right? Because like I said, the major thing here is to develop courage in the face of suffering. So you can meet suffering and see that it doesn't have the reality it seems to have. Can I do that? Well, the answer is, of course you can. So I'm thinking, remember, all the suffering comes from the mind. It's generated by mind. And all happiness is generated by mind. So here's just like this, let's just see what happens then. Let's play around with this. And of course you can. But like I said, the major thing what it's doing is generating courage. Because the thing that really, along with this idea of grasping itself, comes fear. And, fear of what? The other. Everything that's not me, I'm afraid of. It can hurt me. It can harm me. Right? So you're going, okay, well, I'm going to. Riffy and I watched a great movie, not a great movie, but a fun movie the other night. And in it was a story of the Amazons and Princess Diana. And so the Amazons
and Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman
and Wonder Woman. So the Amazons met the ultimate fear, and it was the fear of like antimatter. And antimatter appeared to them like this massive black god that was going to go, you're not going to exist anymore. You've met me. I am anti everything. Anything that exists will meet me and not exist. Be afraid, right? And the queen of the Amazons says, Amazons, show them your fear. And they all just hurl their spears at it. And I was going, that's the Tonglen. That's what we're going to, that's right. Be courageous in the face of the antimatter. Right? Be courageous in the face of non-existence and all the fears. And that's what we've got to do. That's the idea behind all this. And like I said, what happens is you develop courage through your imagination, but it works on you because you go out into the world courageous. You're not afraid as much as you used to be. So we're going to, most times when we do the Tong, in terms of Tonglen training, what you do is you put your sufferings out in front of you, like you imagine them, often as a black cloud or black liquids, sometimes hair, sometimes insects, all sorts of disgusting, nasty stuff that you would naturally be afraid of and don't like because of suffering, right?
You can stop the share for a second, Hun, so you can tell us.
You put it out there, and then you're going to breathe it in. Or even before you breathe it in, because that can be difficult, you could imagine it coming in to your heart level here, where your most subtle intelligence is. And you think, my subtle intelligence, my Buddha nature, is actually obscured by ignorance. And that's seen as a negative. And this suffering is like a negative. And they're going to come in and they're going to meet and go, boom. And all my good qualities can now shine out. That's how it's normally done in the Tonglen. What I want to do is do it a different way. And just see, because when I do it the different way, it seems easier to do. And so I thought it's better to do it easy in the beginning. That gives us more courage. You find, I can do this. This is not so bad. And then more difficult levels, and you just step it up, step it up. And again, always remind yourself what you're actually doing, which is you're building courage. Courage to be compassionate, courage to be kind. First to oneself, because we're often not, and then extending it out to others. So I want to do a meditation in this other way and just see what you guys think of it. So please, just sit back. So I want you to think of a situation you would normally avoid. A situation you don't like, so you try to avoid it. Pick a situation like that. Have you found that situation? Something to avoid? So you're going to feel some sort of, I want you to imagine the emotional or physical pain that you feel when you're in that situation. So forget the situation, but just focus on the pain itself. I want you to imagine that this pain, whether it be emotional or physical, now appears in front of you as a big sort of black cloud. And because you want to be courageous, in your own mind, you're saying to this cloud, come on, come on, bring it on, bring it on. When you say that, you feel an intense desire to move into the cloud. And so say something like, I love pain, I love the suffering, as you're swept forward into this cloud. And as soon as you enter the cloud, think that your own egocentricity, your own indifference becomes one with it. And as soon as it does, the cloud ejects you. It's left behind. You're out of it. And feel the absence of your own selfishness. Think that you're in a realm of selfless, pure light. And sort of marvel and say, wow, moving into pain, moving into suffering has set me free. So now just breathe in and just exhale. Allow your eyes to flutter open. And I just asked you, I have a little more to say about what the purpose of this is and what helped, what happens. But does anybody else have anything to say about it? Miffy, yes?
Eddie, just stop the share while you.
No. So anybody find that easy? Lou's got his hand up. Okay, it's still a little difficult. And this is what the great Greek philosopher Seneca said, that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. That even in imagination, we can't even consider our pain. We don't want to, let alone reality. But more suffering, we have more suffering through our imagination than through anything physical happening to us or the real thing.
Yeah, and Eddie, that seems to compound it. So we have suffering in our imagination, then we're fearful of that, and then that builds it up and makes it even worse. And so it really gets
Yep,
enormous.
that's right. Then
And
we
something
act on it with our body and our speech.
and
It's
and
all
physiologically
imaginary.
wind ourselves up. And then a meditation like this is really like doing a screeching U-turn in the other direction.
And it's to demonstrate to us, for us to discover itself, that pain and suffering has no absolute reality. Lou, yes, please.
I've read about this in the usage for chronic pain management. Instead of constantly fighting the pain, you don't resist it. You just feel the pain. You know it's there. And it doesn't take away the pain, but it takes the sharp edge off of it. Instead of being a horrible pain, it becomes a pain.
Yep, that's right. The mere pain. Pain in name. So if you use this, if you try to do this regularly, this is what it reveals to you. But suffering doesn't have the reality that you think it does. We add more to it through our own imagination. That's the thing. Our imagination is the thing. This is the whole, Buddhist teaching, is that it's not out there. It's us. We're constructing reality, and we're giving our imagination a reality it doesn't actually have, which is we think it's real. But when you go into your imagination, you find, of course, it's not real. It doesn't have that reality. And just like Lou says, it's just called pain. And it becomes workable with your own consciousness. So pain is not absolute. Our experience of pain changes relative to how we react to it. So I'll just, hang on, sorry. What have I done here? Share screen. I'm already there. What have I done? Share meditation, and I'll go out, stop the share. But sorry, folks, I'm just a little bit like that. So it says, when you move towards it, pain shrinks. If you flee from it, pain pursues you like a monster in a dream. If you confront the monster, it goes away. This is why a desire, this is how you can use desire, is a crucial part of the method. It keeps you moving towards pain. And the desire here is a desire to be courageous. I said, this is an essential point of this last practice. Many people think, it's the compassion and loving kindness, because that's what you're actually doing in the taking in, right? It's an expression of compassion towards yourself. If I could only deal with my future sufferings right now and rid myself of it, I wouldn't need to experience it in the future. That being the case, I'll do it. Miffy, yes?
Yeah, so this the desire to be courageous, that's like a really a positive and a active kind of thing. Whereas normally where we have a desire to be free of pain or free of fear, which is a really passive kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we want that, but we're not going to do anything about it. We just have a wish. But this is going, it requires more than a wish.
So when you're saying that, like, the desire to be courageous, is this like developing an attitude of engaging in it rather than shrinking away?
Shrinking back. Yeah, but remember here, this whole thing of the mind of enlightenment is to help others. Well, ask yourself, what's going to stop me helping others? You come down as basically, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I'm fear. Whether it's fear I can't do it, or that they'll do something I don't want them to do to me. So this is like, so I took this of a new book that's come out by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels called Tools. When I look at it, I go, oh my God, there's all these Buddhist meditations in there, but they've just sort of moved them around a little. And I thought, same thing though, same result. So why not, we tried one bringing in, how about I try going in? Right? Like, come on, Bob, show me your fear. And you go, yeah, I will. Here I come. Right? I'm running in. And you go, heck, there's nothing there. It was just my imagination. Let's go back. So that was this first meditation. So then he says, practices in combination, both giving and taking. Commence the taking from your side. So that's what I say. We start off with ourselves. And then just do this on the breath. So this thing is, I'm doing it now, it's like, yeah, it's tremendous. breathing in the suffering and like seeing it then go, yeah, well, here I come. Exhale, in you go. And of course, it's fine. Now comes the other side to giving. And again, this also has an aspect of developing courage or being fearless. How to meditate. You start with oneself, you look at your future again, and you're looking at, well, what do I want in this life? Well, one is the ordinary type of happiness. It's called contaminated because we grasp at it. But there's also the uncontaminated happiness of the true cessations, liberation, and enlightenment. You can also look at the past and present. And then again, when it comes to others, it's basically the same again. But when we come at others, it's like the gurus and the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, insects, animals. So here we say, like, what are we giving? What are we giving? Well, it's these types of things here. The contaminated happiness and the uncontaminated happiness, our virtue, our merit, anything that we hold dearly and wish to cling on to. So in other words, we're developing courage to let go. The courage to come back to your refuge, your inner refuge, the mind itself, the seed of enlightenment. We have everything needed. We have this body and mind. We've met a teacher. We've got teachings. We've got great conditions to support us. I remember in Calling the Guru from Afar, it's got this great line that says, please bless me to have the thought of no need in my mind. Please bless me to have the thought of no need. You know, this is this act of, there's nothing to cling to. I don't need to hold anything. I can actually give it away. And remember, again, it's in imagination. You have the courage to be okay with yourself. So, yeah, through this we reveal to ourselves our own inner richness. And through this practice we tackle our own fear of poverty, of need, and we stop the clinging that we have to all the things that actually can't provide us with the happiness we think we need. So again, let's do a meditation on this. Again, to just prop yourself up, feel at ease. And then imagine that all the 6 realms of sentient beings surround you. And acknowledge that all of them are suffering. The 6 realms of sentient beings, the realms of samsara and sentient beings surround us. All of these beings are suffering. And you see that, make a wish that none of them were. You think, oh, I wish that wasn't happening. Oh my God, I wish that weren't happening. Then decide, I'm going to stop it. Decide to stop their suffering. And then again, imagine all this black smoke, which symbolizes the suffering of all these beings. And imagine it all being absorbed into your own selfishness, into your own indifference. That as it has absorbed into your indifference, they are now free of suffering. And their suffering, joined up with your own suffering of indifference, explodes into light. And this light possesses all good qualities and virtues. And it just washes over them, gives them everything they need, empowering them, providing a supreme happiness. So we're all the same. And again, just breathe in a little more deeply through your nostrils. Exhale through your mouth. And find yourself back in the seat in front of the screen. So in summary of this verse, we're just changing our attitude. Through the practice of courage. It supports courage and we're generating courage. And this is the major thing. And you're doing that, and the other side is challenging all sorts of fears. They're all rooted in the sense of I grasping, self-grasping. All fear comes from there. Now, if you could see that you actually didn't exist in the way that your ignorance grasps with the eye, of course you'd naturally have courage, wouldn't you? It's no problem. And this is related to the practice of Tonglen, and especially to the perfection of concentration. So you see, you concentrate the mind to become fearless by challenging fear, using courage. Becoming courageous in your concentration. There's love and kindness there, and there's compassion there. So many good qualities there.
Eddie, how come it's related mostly to the perfection of concentration and not, for instance, enthusiastic perseverance?
Because you have to be concentrated to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we come to verse 8. Here, Geshe Langri Tangpa says this. By ensuring that all this, meaning everything that's come before it, the past 7 verses, remains undefiled from the stains of the 8 mundane concerns, and by understanding all things as illusions, I will train myself to be free of the bondage of clinging. So we were training ourselves to be free from clinging in the previous meditation, right? When we do the giving, we stop the clinging. But that's, like I said, that's on the method side. What actually stops the clinging is wisdom. Wisdom of emptiness, wisdom of selflessness. Like I said, so all of this refers to the previous 7 verses. And now we've got these interesting terms, undefiled from the stains. So these stains, as I'll show you shortly, exist on 3 different levels. And we'll come to that shortly. And meaning remaining undefiled, or remain undefiled. So there are stains that defile us, but the wisdom removes those stains, so that the mind is undefiled. So here are the stains. Free from, there's 3 types of free froms. Attachment to this life, and meaning the 8 worldly concerns. So these are called black stains. They're really just the concerns of this life. So whatever you do is not a practice of Dharma. You're not even practicing Dharma when you have this. And you'll know that this is how we are at present. We do a lot of stuff just for this life. We don't even realize it, and then we do our Dharma practice, and they're completely divorced from one another. So same with wisdom realizing emptiness, and through the practice of illusory appearances, we can become free from these stains, so the mind is undefiled. The second level of stain is this one, the wrong conception that things truly exist. Oopsie. And like I said, one of the simplest ways of demonstrating how we have this wrong conception is that we think our imagination is true. We think the things we imagine are true. Like if you find yourself, like I said again, afraid to imagine something, doesn't that mean to say you think what you're imagining is true? There's some sort of true existence? These are called like the 8 extremes, and we'll come to those shortly. These are like white stains. And lastly, we have another sense of self-preoccupation. So this is like to do now with the self-cherishing, egocentricity. Now, this is what they call the stains are mixed. So let's start off with,
is that because they're mixed with both the white and the black stains?
yes, because here, you can, like I said, what they're pointing at here is you could be free from ego grasping, but still have the sense of self-cherishing. And so, there's a sense of preoccupation. It's about me, but it's mixed up in here or in here. So here are these 8 mundane concerns. And like I said, they could be white, black, or mixed. And to work against them, on the left-hand side, we see seeking delight in pleasure, gain, praise, and success. We practice giving those away in the Tonglen meditation. Anything good, we wish to give it away so that we don't cling to it. You think, wow, I'm clinging to it, you've got to acknowledge I'm misapprehending how these things exist. I'm engaging them in an unskillful way. And so I don't want to do that. So I'll give these things away, and by doing it, you release your own hold over them. On this side here, this is what we use as our own basis to develop compassion. So we acknowledge that others go through this, and we do ourselves. Discomfort, this pain, it's unpleasant to us. We have losses that we don't like, criticism, and so forth. So these things happen to us, and they happen to others. And what we're going to do is use this as our basis for developing courage and compassion. Because we're going to work with these. We're going to see these as being teachers, teaching us to develop greater love, compassion, courage, and a wisdom that realizes emptiness. So it's like this idea of, like, if we have some sort of uncomfortable feeling, some sort of uncomfortable feeling or thought, it becomes usable immediately. This is not, we don't need to go the other way down and go, oh, I shouldn't have that thought, I put in this other opponent. No, I'm using it. If I feel some sort of suffering, I can think everybody else does too. As there's no difference between myself and anyone else in samsara, that their suffering and mine come together. Let me take it on, bring it into my own wisdom and destroy it, and come out with more love to myself and others. Riffy.
Yeah, just looking at this, it's really apparent that actually, if we don't experience pain, we don't have any opportunity to develop compassion, because we don't even notice it happening in others. Or if we ourselves haven't experienced loss, we don't even notice when somebody else has experienced loss or know. So we actually need those to even be able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. So
That's right.
is that whole thing of flipping it around, that it's not inherently bad.
That's right.
It
It's
feels
not
bad, but it's really good.
right. So you know what they say in the text, you find say, there are if you only think of sufferings as being bad, you're going to miss out on a massive benefit for yourself. Massive. And this is like what it's pointing out. So independence upon us experiencing suffering, we can develop renunciation for its causes. But that's great. That's a tremendous thing, because now we can head to be liberated from it. Freedom.
Yeah.
Without it, what are you going to?
We
We're not
wouldn't
going to
we
go
wouldn't
for
even
free.
have that thought.
We wouldn't even
And
have the thought.
and it opens the window for having compassion for others.
For others. That's right. So renunciation opens the door to our own compassion, self-compassion. That's renunciation. Similarly, then we have the compassion for the others. And so why throw it away? We don't want to do that. It's like, oh my gosh, this is really valuable. I want to use it to develop all my good qualities. And like I said, without great compassion, no mind of enlightenment. No mind of enlightenment, no Buddhahood. So you can come back and go, oh my God, from this level of training, this is all really valuable. Whereas before, we don't want to have these things. We're countering them, deliberately using antidotes and the wisdom of emptiness. Here we're going, useful. I can use this to transform my way of thinking and behaving. The other does the same. It transforms the two. But it's all about me. Renunciation towards myself, my suffering, my self-compassion. Here it's going, yep, you need that and you've developed it here. Now take the next step up. Everyone's just like you. Give them a hand. So this is a same verse, but just taken from a different text. So here, as you can see, Geshe Langri Tangpa is saying, furthermore, through all these method practices, the 7 verses that came before it, together, the mind undefiled by stains of conception of the 8 extremes, meaning wrong thoughts, wrong views about how things exist. We've been extreme about them. And it sees all phenomena as illusory, meaning that they don't exist in that extreme way we thought they did. May I be released from the bondage of mistaken appearance and conception. So I love this because there's so much in it, right? And it really spells it out. And that's why I really wanted to share it with you. So the bondage, I see, it's like taking these appearances and then thinking they're true. Because they appear to be true, they are true. For most of us, we have any type of thought, any thought at all, we always think it's true. It's very rare. You have to sort of stop, don't you, and sort of wonder, well, hang on a minute. But the first thing is, it appears to be true. And sometimes you have to challenge the appearance. Right, and you work out, no. Or you talk to others and they convince you. No, that's not right. That's not true. That's not right. You've misthought it. But here it's saying whenever appearance, whether it's an imaginary appearance or appearances that arise and depends upon our senses, like our eyes and our ears and our touch and taste and so forth. They're all appearances, and all of them appear to be truly existent, meaning existing in the way they appear to us. They can't actually appear any other way. So then we challenge these appearances with our wisdom, with our intelligence, our willingness to analyze the appearance, to ask yourself, is it true? So these extremes, like there are 8 of them. So I'll just put up a slide and show what these 8 are. These are them. So you can see there is the extreme of produced phenomena. So our imagination is produced, we are produced, and everything around you is produced. Because it depends upon causes and conditions. So it's produced independent upon causes and conditions. The extreme of cessation means that anything that finishes depends upon the finishing of the causes and conditions. Some interruption in some way. The extreme of impermanent phenomena could be that the impermanent phenomena actually appear to be permanent, but actually all these extremes are to do with the extreme of true existence, the extreme of inherent existence. So everything here is appearing in a false manner, but that false manner is grasped at by us, by our own mind, to be true. So here we have these 8. And so, okay, so how can we work with these 8 when we're not in meditation? Because we can find out that all of these are extreme in meditation by actually looking at them and analyzing to see if they have the inherent existence they appear to have. And we find they don't have it. Now, when we're not in meditation, these phenomena are going to appear to us, right? Produced phenomena, impermanent phenomena, things going, things coming, singular things, plural things. All these things are going to appear to our senses. And they're all going to appear in an extreme way. So when we were in meditation, we discovered they didn't have this extreme way of existing. But when we're out of meditation, the extreme appears. So how do we work with that when we're not in meditation, when we're out in the world? The answer is by understanding that all these extremes are illusory. They appear to be there and they're not there. Well, just as you guys all appear to be there right on my screen, right in front of me, but in fact you're not. Just like a mirage appears to be water when there's no water there. So I'm just going to tap Miffy's head now, but nothing's happened. She's not going, oh my, leave me alone. Because that's didn't happen, right? She's not there. The water is not there. The true existent phenomena is not there.
See, I'm just looking at this, Eddie. I'm just thinking, if I'm still assuming that you're right there because I can see you on the screen, and yet intellectually I know you can't possibly be, what hope do I have out in the so-called real world of remembering this?
Now, the only hopes we have is through this process called meditation. It's just called becoming familiar with what you understand. Using your understanding and familiarize yourself with it again and again and again and again. So let's do a short reflection again. So again, just get comfortable in your seats. Of course, you don't have to sit like this, but I like it just to sort of sit up, and we're going to think about something now. We're going to meditate on something. So, have you or anybody you known mistaken a reflection of a person in a mirror to be an actual person? It appeared to be a person, but was not. Just like us looking at each other actually on these screens. We appear to be there and real, and you are the people I'm engaging with, but in fact you're not there. So we have all done that. Well, in the same way, all people and things seem to exist without dependence upon causes and conditions, on their parts, and on thought. They do not exist in that way. In this way, people and things are like illusions. So now I want you to imagine that someone is harming you, or will harm you, or has harmed your family or a friend. And in response to that harm, imagine getting angry. In that flash of rage, you feel that the subject, yourself, and the object, the person harming, are real and independent of one another. It's because you accept this appearance, anger is generated. So before that first flash of rage, make use of reason by asking, who am I? Who is being hurt? Who is the one being hurt? And this enemy, the person harming, is that the body of the other person? Is that the mind of the other person? If it's not the body and it's not the mind, what other person is harming you? So if you examine things in this way, the harm doer, who previously seemed to be created in and of themselves, is something to get angry at. And your own identity of I, this I, inherently created to be hurt, these seem to disappear and anger falls apart. Okay, again, breathe in a little, exhale. And before I put up the last summary slide, is there anything anybody would like to offer or say or challenge me with or think about? Susan, Barbara, sorry. Yep, that's it.
So my understanding, if I have it correct, is repetition, repetition, repetition with this meditation, so that when it goes from imagination to reality.
Yeah, that's right. You will respond as you did in imagination because you've been training yourself that way.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep, that's the one. Mm-hmm.
So Eddie, it seems like we need to get so familiar with this that, like, even if we're asleep in our dreams, we'll have this new response of going, who am I? Who is this I who's having the flash of anger or something?
Yeah, well, you should get like two things. One is just by like asking the question, whatever conception you have of I naturally seems to disappear, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Like
creates
the
some
I that you
space.
seem so certain and talking about is like, suddenly you go like, I don't know, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and that's
It's a
right.
pause and it creates space.
That's right. This is right, And just like that, you go, gee, it's the same with the other, and it's the same with everything. It's the words and the meanings we give to those words and the grasping at them to be true. That's all the problem. That's the problem arises. But as soon as you ask the question, it's like the whole thing sort of collapses for a moment and you get some space. Now, Susan is asking a question. Yes, Sue?
Yes, Eddie, I just wanted to say that I've been realizing tonight as you were talking that my computer itself is an illusion, or at least parts of it, because the camera just quit working. It's got a red light on it. And and I realized something that I know I just count on it. It's always there, and I expect it to be there, and it's a functional part of this Zoom system. Just disappeared. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, things exist conventionally, you know, in independence upon other things. But like you say, when the other things aren't there, it ceases its existence, which is just what's happened to you, Susan. So yeah, it doesn't have any true existence. It's not always there. That's right, as we think it is. No, it doesn't have that. Great example though. And that's what I mean, just noticing little things like that and then relating it back. Ah, it helps understanding. Ah, wasn't always there. It's not always there.
And
Gosh.
even those things, they really throw us, don't
Yeah,
they? I
oh
mean,
yeah,
that's
that's right.
the shock
They
of it,
do.
that it's just a little light, or just whether there's a picture or not, and yet it changes our whole mood and experience.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a little shocking. It's shocking. You know, to suddenly realize, gosh, everything I thought was true is not as true as what I thought it was. Yeah. That's shocking.
It is shocking, and it makes you realize it takes on a different aspect of communication, because when our camera's on and somebody's talking, you can read their face. And so it's a different thought process. Yeah, it changes.
Yeah,
It's shocking.
that's exactly right, Susan. So what it should what I was going to say it should. I think what it naturally changes to is more kindness, more care. And I think the natural expression of this understanding is care, because it's not that nothing. It's not the fact that it's not the case that there isn't anything that exists. You know, the appearances exist, but they're not true. That's the thing. And you know, so I've got the appearance of Barbara here in front of me, and there's Lou, and there's Miffy, and maybe this is Aaron's partner, or Aaron, like he's there, you know. So the appearances are there. And if I started yelling and swearing at you and complaining about your behaviour as our guests, right, I mean, that would have an effect, wouldn't it? You know, an unpleasant effect. Right? So these things, you know, just because they don't truly exist, it means they dependently exist. So we've got cause and effect taking place. And so, one of the deepest things we want is to have an absence of suffering and to be happy. So we could relate to each other like that. Aaron, yep.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of interesting, Eddie, is not only are these screens an illusion, but you're coming at us from Australia tomorrow.
That's right. There you go. That's right. There you go. That's right. It seems to be all happening right now.
Yeah,
That's
that's right. Because Susan said tonight, and I'm going, no, it's lunchtime.
Yeah, so all these appearances that each appear true to us, but in fact they're highly dependent. Yeah, that's right. So this is, as you pointed out, Susan, it's shocking, and we have to respond to this. And I think that the most valid response is one of tolerance, and then from that, kindness and care, compassion.
And actually, that example is so great, because we can hold those seemingly contradictory truths in our mind at the same time and go, well, okay, you have your reality and I have mine. That's all right. I can handle
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
that's right. That's like Aaron has said, over there it's what tomorrow, or where tomorrow? You guys,
we're in tomorrow.
okay, we're in tomorrow. They're yesterday. We can accept that. We can also accept, like Susan said, over there it's night and here it's day. So that's acceptable for us. So we can accept illusion, like dependent and empty, because we can do this. That's really possible. And I mean, that possibility does more than just exist. It's been developed and worked on by heaps of people before us. And so their advice is, look at all phenomena to be illusory. So let's come to the end now. So in summary, this 8th verse is to maintain this pure view. The things are actually empty of the seeming strong reality they seem to have. And that'll help us abandon attachment, but also helps us cultivate insight, because we want to maintain this pure view. Phenomena are empty and dependent. And this is right, like I said again, to the ultimate bodhicitta, the ultimate mind of enlightenment. So in other words, we're combining this insight into the previous 7 verses. And it's related to the perfection of wisdom. So we've come to the end of our 4 weeks, folks. It's been great fun. Mickey's got a hand raised, yes?
Yeah, Eddie, there's a question here from Anna. So the ability to communicate with compassion is definitely a higher level of consciousness. Are there levels of consciousness, though? Are there actually like distinct levels of consciousness? And my other question is, where does the consciousness come from, or is consciousness itself illusory?
Yeah, so consciousness also is illusory in that it seems to be real or have a true existence when it doesn't. So that's the illusory aspect of it. Consciousness appears to be like, if I asked you, Anna, so okay, we've all got consciousness, we all say, yep. So if I say, where is it? You just go like, Jesus, I don't know. Just go, well, it can only be outside you or inside you. Yeah, and you really can't answer, can you, really? You're going to go, because it doesn't have anything physical about it. There's nothing physical about consciousness. But we know it exists. But, and then you go sort of like, well, how's it appearing to my mind, my conventional mind? Usually it's like a thing. Well, consciousness is not a thing. So that's the illusion. That's a thing, and in fact it's not. It doesn't have any thingness, yet it exists. So that's the illusion. You also asked about, what was the part before that?
The levels of consciousness are the ability to communicate with compassion being like a higher level of consciousness.
Yes, there are. And again, just remember, the levels exist merely on the level of language. It's not like you go, here's this level and this one's up here. They're not sort of higher and lower in being able to be findable to be higher and lower. But yes, I'd say to relate to all beings with compassion is a higher, wiser way of working with one another, because it's based on reasoning, and you'll find all the afflictive emotions aren't.
So it's not reactive. It comes from
your understanding that I'm suffering, and so is everybody else, and they wish to be released from suffering, and I can help them, and I want to, because I would like to be helped myself. So that's all reasonable, and that's you have to sort of come through that through reasoning. So the what we call the positive or virtuous states are all coming from the wisdom realizing emptiness. They're based on solid ground, where all the disturbing emotions are based on grasping at a self that doesn't exist. So that's the major big difference. So yeah, I'd say yes, Anna, they are going from a higher level or a more developed or a more subtle level of consciousness. We have it naturally, all of us have compassion naturally, but it's often extended just to those held close and ourselves. But it can be worked upon because it's based on reasoning. We can extend it. And when we extend it, we develop it and cultivate it, that's a higher mind. But basically, I'd say it's high just because it's based in reason. Fun comes from the basis of reasoning. And there was something else?
No, that was it.
Okie dokie. Okay, let's have a look. Well, what's our takeaway? You know about verses 7 and 8. Verses 7 is like the summary of everything that came before it in terms of conventional bodhicitta. Verse 8, ultimate bodhicitta. Trying to be a really courageous love and compassion, the practices of Tonglen, and the ultimate bodhicitta, pure practice, recollect things to be like illusions. So, we've spent 4 weeks together. We've covered these 8 verses in some depth. That's meritorious, right? So, I mean, it's virtuous, that's for sure. So let's make it meritorious and take the energy we've used and direct it towards enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So let's say together, due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space endures and as long as sentient beings abide, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And that's it for now. And I'll see you guys probably in another month's time with a new class of some sort. I hope. Okay. So once again, thank you for all attending these classes, for the great things that you've said and how you've contributed. And it's just great that you're all alive and we're engaged in something useful and meaningful. So let's keep it up and good night.
Thank you, Eddie.
Good night.
Much appreciated.
Okay. Bye-bye then.
Nice.